Hi, everyone. I am excited to talk to you today about Alzheimer's and dementia and how lack of sleep and sleeping pills can increase your risk of dementia. And I'm not telling this to scare you, but I know that some of you are concerned about this. In fact, quite a few of my clients come to me because they know that not sleeping increases their risk of Alzheimer's. And either they are concerned about it, or maybe one of their parents had it. And so they really want to do everything they can not to get it. And so I want to talk about the connection, but I also want to tell you that we can find out what is causing your sleep problems and increasing your risk for Alzheimer's so that you don't get this disease. So that's the goal, right? Let's prevent it from happening in the first place. And it's crazy how common this has become. 1 in 9 people age 65 and older have Alzheimer's. And studies show that if you aren't sleeping well, you have a greater risk of developing this disease. And I'm going to explain why. So a friend of mine, Annie Finn, who's a physician, a chef, and she founded Brain Health Kitchen that helps spread awareness about preventing Alzheimer's, mainly through diet and cooking. But she says that researchers have been tracking the link between inadequate sleep and Alzheimer's for decades. The less good quality sleep one gets throughout life, the greater their risk. The reasons are complex, but it may be that lack of sleep keeps amyloid protein, a key pathological finding in Alzheimer's, from being cleared from the brain. Now, it's mainly during deep sleep, or what's also called non-REM sleep, when these amyloid plaques are cleared from the brain. And one study showed that they found increased amyloids with every hour of sleep lost. Dr. Matthew Walker wrote extensively about this in his best-selling book, Why We Sleep. Maybe you're familiar with that one. And he found sleep and dementia to be a two-way connection. So the more amyloid, then the less deep sleep, the less deep sleep, the more amyloid, and so on. And so it can be this vicious cycle that people get stuck in. And he did note that trouble sleeping tends to come before the onset of dementia by a few years. So it's almost this warning sign, a warning sign that you could be heading toward dementia. Now, the hippocampus is the part of the brain that converts short-term memories into long-term memories. And so when that degenerates, that is what leads to dementia. And it's interesting because this is also the part of the brain that regulates our circadian rhythm, or that sleep-wake cycle. What's also interesting for this connection is that many of my clients with sleep issues also complain about memory loss. And this isn't surprising since we need sleep to consolidate our memories. So it's really interesting that during deep sleep is when your brain stores information that you learned that day. So without enough sleep, then your short-term memory diminishes. And then it's in REM sleep that your brain catalogs that information that was consolidated in deep sleep, and then it connects it, sometimes in really creative ways. So there's evidence a lack of this REM sleep can reduce your creativity, problem solving, and ability to learn new skills. Now, what's also interesting and good news is that some of the causes of insomnia, memory loss, and Alzheimer's are the same. So that's how we can address all of these things at the same time. And one big factor for this is high blood sugar, or being on that blood sugar roller coaster. So sugar and insulin surges cause inflammation in the brain. And this is why Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes. So high insulin also reduces the brain's ability to clear out those amyloid plaques as well. Blood sugar irregularities can also lead to sleep disturbances, which I have talked about before, so you'll want to check that out. But pretty much when your blood sugar drops too low in the night, It's stressful for your body. Your body releases cortisol because then that causes your cells to release glucose, which gives you that energy and increases your blood sugar. But when that's happening at night, that's going to wake you up. So that's how blood sugar causes sleep disturbances. Now, stress is another factor. Of course, we know that stress affects sleep. It also can increase your risk of dementia. And that's because when cortisol levels are high from constantly being stressed, if you're constantly in fight or flight, then that takes oxygen away from the brain. And cortisol also overactivates the hippocampus, that part of your brain, which can alter your circadian rhythm. So recent studies are showing that a disrupted circadian rhythm, so that could mean feeling tired during the day, wired at night, when we're supposed to be tired, and not sleeping well, is an indicator for increased risk of Alzheimer's. Now, hormones can contribute to this risk as well. So low estrogen and testosterone. Sex hormones can become depleted over time when your body's constantly using its resources to make cortisol to deal with stress. Now, low levels of sex hormones can affect sleep as well as memory and focus. And studies are showing this as well. Heavy metals are another risk factor. So things like mercury, aluminum, and arsenic accumulate in the liver and the brain, and they can cause all sorts of neurological issues, including sleep problems and memory loss. So there was another study, a meta-analysis, so that's looking at multiple studies of heavy metal exposure that focused specifically on aluminum, mercury, cadmium, and lead, and found that there's a significant relationship between elevated blood levels of these metals and risk of Alzheimer's. This is something I also test for in my program because I see heavy metals and mineral imbalance affecting sleep as well. So if you have high mercury, high aluminum, high copper, things like that, that can totally affect your sleep and cause neurological and mood issues. Now, unfortunately, sleeping pills are not the answer, even though they might help you get more quote unquote sleep. It is artificial sleep. But again, studies show that zolpidem, which is an Ambien, and benzodiazepines make you more likely to suffer from Alzheimer's. Even over-the-counter sleep aids such as Benadryl and the drug Seroquel can increase your risk of dementia because they suppress what's called acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter in the brain. Now, sleep deprivation is not the only risk factor for dementia, but an important way to help prevent this is to consistently get enough sleep. And so that means making sleep a priority. Remember, for every hour of sleep you don't get that you need, those amyloid plaques build up in your brain. So you definitely want to make sleep a priority if you aren't. And if you do want to sleep and you aren't able to, then you can lessen your chances of developing dementia by stabilizing your blood sugar, by reducing stress, and of course, by getting enough sleep. Now, eating brain healthy anti-inflammatory foods is also extremely important. So you can look at the Brain Health Kitchen website to find some really delicious recipes that are brain health friendly. And if you can't sleep, there's something going on in your body that's causing this, right? Because a healthy body is meant to sleep well. So if you aren't sleeping, something is out of balance. Something isn't healthy. Even if you eat healthy, even if you exercise, even if you take supplements, even if you take care of yourself, something isn't ideal. And we can figure out what that is. I use functional lab tests to find what's causing that stress in your body and to look at things like hormone balance, liver function, gut health, heavy metals, and more, anything that can be contributing to sleep issues, and also things that increase your risk factor for dementia. So Dr. Matthew Walker also wrote in his book, which I love that he said this, I've always found it curious that Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, two heads of state, they were very vocal, if not proud, about sleeping only 4 to 5 hours a night. Both went on to develop the ruthless disease. So you can see how important sleep is. And if you aren't getting it, I can help. feel free to book a call with me. Keep listening to this podcast, take the advice I give. Diet is really important for health in general and for your sleep. So that is definitely a place to start if you aren't ready to dive into lab testing. And you can find one of my previous podcasts called How to Eat Well to Sleep Well to get started on that. All right, I will talk to you next time.